Most people don't fail because they lack money. They fail because they feel lack. And that feeling doesn't just hold you back. It turns into a desperate energy that repels clients, opportunities, and even friends. Feeling broke was never about the money. It's that inner state that pushes away everything that you actually want, like money, clients, opportunities, and even people closest to you. And in this video, I'm going to show you how feeling rich first makes you untouchable, free, and independent, and why success then becomes a natural consequence. And more importantly, how to actually do it. Stay until the end of that video. I'll give you 2 clear practical shifts that you can implement today to your internal state and turn that state into abundance and power to then attract opportunities, clients, and experiences into your life that you actually desire. Let's dive right into it. What are the consequences of actually feeling this lack? You have to understand that so you actually can shift it. When we're in a state of lack emotionally, we start to see the world as lack, right? There's always never enough. We're still needing something. So there is already the root cause that no matter how much outer circumstances change, if that's we receive money, we receive compliments, we receive positive feedback, we receive even sometimes good news, and our brain immediately doesn't value that because we're emotionally in a state of lack. So no matter what changes in the outside, it's kind of like, well, it's still not enough. Well, okay, I received a compliment, but I'm still fat. I still have kilos on my belly. Or yeah, it's a potential referral, but that referral isn't here yet. And right, it's like your energy is more like a place, like a dark hole that is sucking those things in that could be beautiful, could be exciting, could be amazing, but it isn't really fruitful. So your thoughts, your energy is not really nourishing for your outer world and your outer circumstances to really flourish. So that's one thing. We see the world through lack. Now, if we're in a state of lack, we can't really serve. We're not in a place where we feel energized, motivated, abundant, strong enough, or even confident enough to serve. Sometimes, these people that are actually like super clever, they're intelligent, and maybe they have a skill, but they're not feeling confident or strong within themselves to actually step out into the world and serve other people with all of their confidence. Maybe they have like some sorts of, let's say, good job, but they would never start to be really self-employed and go big and really serve people and even receive positive feedback for that, right? So the point I'm getting to is we don't really serve in the amount that we could. And in the end, when it comes to our outer circumstances, we receive back what value we really provide. That's one of the fundamental parts of how we build or grow financially and become in the end wealthy. Wealth doesn't always have to do with having a lot of money, but it is definitely a consequence of providing a lot of value, right? We can also, for instance, provide, let's say, a home. Imagine we have a huge house, a huge home, but we're so in our desperate energy, in that feeling of like, I'm not loved enough, I'm not wanted enough, and therefore I'm gonna prove that I can keep this whole house for myself and I will not let my family members stay in my home while they're traveling through the country or whatever, right? Even that could come from a place of lack. So how can you be in a place where you receive a lot of value, and value can not just be money, right? It could also be love, right? Imagine in that particular example, your family members come and you provide value by providing a beautiful home, a beautiful space, but because you have enough space, and all of a sudden you all come together and have beautiful experiences, a lot of love, food coming together and sharings and experiences, maybe even contacts, opportunities through that, right? If you're a businessman, if you're a business person. So therefore, it's super, super necessary that we first get into a place of being really abundant. Otherwise, what we're feeding, and that's the next point, is our desperate energy. That kind of spirit that is like this dark hole sucking in everything and really sucking out love and joy and value in the end. That causes us to really go down in this downward spiral that we're already in. That means we maybe have sales calls booking in, but somehow our energy is so desperate in that sales call that we don't sign those deals. Somehow we have people really being interested in being in touch with me, but somehow something inside me repels them, pushes them away. And that's that part where people feel that desperate energy and you, in the end, sabotage yourself and push that stuff away. The consequence of all that is this huge downward spiral that is not nourishing and flourishing, either for your business, for your relationships, for your business partners, for your clients. You will create more lack staying in that state of lack. Super important for you to understand. One important note that's really important to keep in mind. Now you might feel already safe. Your ego might feel like, oh, I got it, right? Like I'm in a state of lack, but I will not give away to other people, right? If that's wisdom or competence or skill or whatever, right? If you're in that state of like your ego all of a sudden feeling really safe and staying there, it might really feel super sticky. It might feel awkward, unknown, if you now want to shift into that state of abundance, into that state of having enough, into a state of providing really a lot of value. That could feel wrong in your system, not because it is wrong, but because it's so unknown to you and your system. Let's dive into the magic of what I'm just talking about, behind feeling actually abundant, behind feeling not feeling this lack anymore. What is that magic? What is that exciting experience like when we feel really abundant, joyful, happy, and really rich? Rich in love, rich in finance, rich in provision, and so on. So first of all, speaking out of my own experience in business, the hits that you get are far less hard, right? If clients stop paying, if clients can't pay, if people cancel, if sales calls don't show up, you start thinking differently. For instance, in my own experience, when a client couldn't pay anymore, or just imagine, let's say, stop paying, I started to implement the certain and the right structure that can't happen anymore. That meant I actually improved a fundamental part in my business. So for that, the experience was a huge, big improvement in learning. Or other experiences where, for instance, where I really didn't have anything and I felt like I lost anything and I felt, oh shit, now I'm like absolutely not valuable at all. I recognized actually what are my values that I can provide, my resources that I actually still have in that time where I really didn't have anything. I was in debt, I had to pay the government, I had to pay other people, and I really had so, like literally in my own breath and my own body and my own health, not even really much money to get enough food at one stage in my career. But in that time, I was like, wait, hold on, I have something to give. There is something that I can provide, that I can give, so people are willing to pay me for my service or the value that I can provide. That was one thing. So I started to embrace, to appreciate those hits instead of actually seeing them as negative hits. And in a relationship, that's another very important part of feeling rich, empowered, abundant, and especially rich in love. Why? Because in relationships of two people, especially intimate relationships, it's never the responsibility of one person to make the other person feel extremely loved. So if you feel loved by yourself, if you feel rich in love, you are not depending on the other person to give you something that they're actually not really responsible to. That's one thing. On the other hand, you're not attached to their love that they provide for you. These are human beings that chose you as your partner, but then also have their own life, their own opinions. And even if their choice is changing and they say like, hey, I want to move on, I want to live my own life, I have a different direction in life, then you might get attached, feeling extremely lost, disempowered because you took that love from them. And that's that desperate energy I was talking about earlier. Okay, so there's a magic in feeling rich in love, finance, and so on, in actually being abundant and providing love, than really taking love and then being attached and then even further down in that downward spiral. So let's dive into a practical experiment or example of how we can actually implement feeling really abundant and feeling rich and feeling like there's enough. First of all, we need to observe that feeling of lack. We need to understand that that feeling of lack can come from the outer world, from different triggers and different experiences that you might have gone through. Every person has experienced a different path, a very individual path, and therefore it can have different explanations or stories to it. But when we break everything down, it's most of the time that we don't feel safe, or we don't feel loved. And most people run away and try to avoid feeling aspects of not feeling loved or not feeling safe. It's important that we understand this feeling is inevitable. It's a part of us. It's as much as a part of feeling love, happiness, joy, acceptance, even enlightenment. Every feeling is a feeling. The mind and we start just judging it, and therefore we change it. Our system does not differentiate if you feel now happiness or joy or fear, grief, or even anger. That means we have to learn. If we don't allow to feel grief, anger, or fear, you will reduce that feeling of feeling joy or other higher emotions, right? Therefore, it's important for our first part, first of all, to face that feeling of feeling unsafe, or that feeling of being unloved. In the second part, really accept it. Now you're watching this video and now you're like, okay, Daniel, well, how the fuck should I actually accept this feeling? It's really intense. I don't want to feel it, and I can't just feel it. My systems may be overreacting and just going for things to make me feel safe again. There, in this point, book yourself a call with me. Underneath this video, you can have a look and I can give you a new perspective to that. And that's the reason why we have to have a look from different angles and give you as an individual perspective to that, right? And after that, when we've come to that place of accepting it, of understanding it, of coming to a place of like, hey, maybe it's first I'm feeling unsafe. Maybe I can deal with that feeling at least. Maybe I don't have to run away from it. Then we can actually move on. Then we can start changing that and actually moving on. And with acceptance, things pass usually. Let me give you an example of you've been hurt. Your partner left you and now you're really hurt because that person made you feel really special, really loved, super valuable maybe. And that person gave you something. And that person chose to leave because that person had its own reasons and left. But all of a sudden you're like still fighting. You're still fighting and blaming and maybe feeling anger and hatred. And underneath there's like actually grief and maybe recognizing mistakes that you might have done. And that is that part where your ego still has not accepted that situation. Well, the situation might change. It can change, but currently it is the way it is. And therefore you're suffering. You're holding on to an idea that was in the past or is still an expectation in your brain. But instead of saying, okay, look, these are the cards that are on the table. How can we deal with that now? Right? So there's not acceptance and therefore you suffer in that process. So if we start to accept that, we can let go actually of a lot of resistance and then move on. So have we done that? We have two major practical questions. So first of all, what are the things that I personally value that do provide me safety? And a note to here, it's important and I can really recommend, take a notebook and write those questions down and answer them. Don't just watch this video and just throw it away and leave it. Write down these questions, go over them and work with that because that will change your life. I promise you. It changed my life, therefore I'm sharing it. So what are things that are valuable to you that do provide you safety? And that could be, for instance, financial backup, clear tasks and to-dos in your work, right? Maybe you have like such a huge to-do list and you feel already unsafe when you wake up. But what is that one task that would provide you safety when you would have done that? Maybe it's the gym, maybe it's going for clients in your business, maybe it's doing some sorts of marketing. For me personally, I found out if I have financial backup for like, let's say even just 1 month, and I'm going for running and I'm gymming, that's for me, I feel safe. Even if I'm not successful at the moment in business and I do go running and I do my workouts, my system feels healthy, I feel strong and empowered, making me believe that I can change my circumstances. And remember, these things that you write down there are more important and more valuable to you than anything else. Money, success is just a mirror and a reflection of those things that you value now, right? That means if you follow those things that you genuinely value, you will see people will celebrate you for that, people will respect you, people will be drawn to you because you follow up with what's valuable to you, and life will mirror that back. So the second important question is, what now makes you feel rich? and valued. First of all, it's important removing those things that make you feel devalued is a good start. Cancel those clients who don't pay you on time. Friends, they mock you, reject you for not drinking with them. Screw them. Might be hard, might be painful, you might feel lonely for some time, but that's at least giving you, on a practical level, you're using the outer world to start shifting your inner state by saying like, no, that makes me feel devalued, I'm leaving that part. And then move on and implement. And implementing can literally be everything. That can be, I put plants into my apartment. I move away from that ugly office and choose myself a smaller office, but that's amazing and has beautiful lights and plants and good desks and a great computer. It could be even like, one thing that I always share with my clients is get yourself a proper journal. Like these journals that we had in school back then were like, let's say $1 or so, $1.50. But there are these beautiful journals that are like really proper, and you feel like you write into that book like Napoleon did back then in his time. You feel like what I write into that book of feelings, thoughts, goals, desires, that has value. Therefore, value yourself by improving those things in your life so you have a better life quality. But be aware that you do that to treat yourself with love, with value, with respect. And if you start doing that, other people will recognize it. Other people try to grow to your standard. Other people might leave you even for that because they themselves start feeling uncomfortable around you. But those things, I promise you, will shift your life. It's important. Take those 2 questions, write them down, take time, even hours, take hours, go for walks, sit down, meditate about it, and write things down. First of all, what can you remove out of your life? Well, that's for the second question. What will really make you feel respected, valued, and rich when you implement that? And of course, for the first question, what things make you really feel safe? What things do you connect with being safe? And then you know, okay, I can implement those. I can work on those. The rest will be a consequence. And then allow yourself to be in that state and enjoy that state of happiness, joy, abundance. Don't screw it by getting back into your old habits. Start to really implementing and creating this new life. And if you have any further questions, if you have any further topics that you want me to speak about, feel free to write that into the comments. Let me know any questions, ideas, even feedback to this video. It's my very first video here on this channel. Therefore, I'm very excited for any feedback. Put your thumbs up if that's great. Give me a like. And don't forget to follow. I'll see you in the next video. Much love. Take care.